Testing. Hey, Holly. Okay. Hi, Holly. Hi, Dan.
Hi there.
Hi, Darius. How is everybody tonight?
Doing well. How are you?
Good, good. Dan, you're in Center Square, right?
Yep.
Okay. Darius, what neighborhood association are you part of?
Buckingham, Helderberg. I've been in a bunch of them.
Okay.
We kind of everywhere we live, we're kind of at the crossroads of several neighborhood associations. So
now there was, before Buckingham Lake, there was the Buckingham Pond Crestwood Association, right? Was that Joe Sullivan?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the Joe Sullivan Neighborhood Association, really.
Yeah, the Joe Sullivan Show.
Yeah, basically no one. There was no one else.
He did it all.
It was what it was. It is no longer. God rest his soul.
Yes. Okay, Kathy. Hi, Kathy. Shaker Park. Okay, you got Dorsey. Hi, Dorsey.
Hello there.
Good to see ya. Where'd he go? Check. Jack. Hey, Ray. Hey, Jack. Just gotta mute yourself there, Kathy. Hi, Ray.
Yeah, I had to unmute myself too. I forgot.
Oh, sorry. Thanks, Zach. Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year to you too. Hey, were you able to get with Councilman Kimbrough for the masks?
I was able to, yes. And
Okay.
I walked around the neighborhood and I passed them out. I still have a few left. So hopefully I can get rid of them this week.
Zach, how come I'm not seeing anything?
What?
I don't see anything on my screen. Maybe it's just me.
Start the video.
I don't see you, Jack.
You don't see me?
No.
Well, I'm here.
Start the video.
I
Looks
did.
like-
I don't know. I don't see anything, or you can't see me.
I think you got to reboot, Jack.
Reboot my computer.
Probably. Log off, log back in.
Zach, this is Dorothy.
Hi.
Would I have the opportunity to share my screen?
Absolutely. You bet.
Okay.
Not a problem. So, I saw Dan Van Riper. Hi, Dan.
Hey, Zach. Happy anniversary.
My anniversary?
Yeah, didn't you just have an anniversary, you and your partner?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Thank you. I thought you were talking about like a Cana anniversary.
Oh.
My second year as Cana chair, #2 in the books. It was a quick first year, I got to tell you. Busy first year. Ed, hey, Ed.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Just gonna let the room fill up a little bit more. We got Councilmember Zamer. Nice to see you.
Sorry.
Good to see
Hi,
you.
Zach. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Good to see you, Deb.
There we go. Good to see you too.
How are you?
Good. Hi, everybody.
Maura McNulty. Hi, Maura.
Hello. How's everybody?
Good to see you. Oh boy, the waiting room is filling up. Okay, here we go. All right, folks, it's 6:31. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Good evening, everybody. Happy New Year. Welcome back from the holiday. I'm Zach Simpson, CANA Chair. Thank you for joining us tonight. I just wanted to start out tonight's meeting with a couple of COVID-19 updates. Obviously, with the COVID surge, CANA is going to stay remote for the foreseeable future. Obviously, when we do get back in person someday, to be determined, we will try to have a hybrid arrangement. So just keep that in mind. I do want to give a huge shout out to our CANA members, neighborhood associations, community organizations, local officials that helped distribute masks and test kits to City of Albany residents these last couple of weeks. It's been a huge undertaking, but it's been a true team effort. Albany City School has gone fully remote until the end of next week due to the COVID surge. And hospitalizations have more than doubled the last couple of weeks in the Albany County. So just a couple of things to keep in mind. I do want everybody just to spread the word about the two mass testing sites that one opened yesterday at Crossgates Mall at the Ruby Tuesdays location. That's open Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And the other one is going to be opening this Friday at UAlbany at the Colonial Dining Hall, and that's going to be open Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. And that's going to be able to handle 225 appointments per day and 50 walk-ins. As things progress, I'll try to keep everybody as updated as possible. Okay. I want to go to the Albany Police Department with the public safety update. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, my name is Dan Webster, Albany Police Department, Community Service Officer. For those who don't know me, but just a few things. It's January, so it's generally a good time of year, crime-wise. It's the best way I can say it. But there's a few things I want to talk about, and I know I talk about them almost every month, but it's one of those things that people can do to help us. And that is not to leave cars running unattended. It's something we're seriously pressing because people are sliding into those cars and stealing. We had 7 in 1 week. So it's something that's preventable. And it's something that we're really trying to press because then it creates not only paperwork, but if a chase ensues or something like that on something that's preventable. So really try to press not leaving cars running unattended with keys in them. It's just, it's 7 in 1 week is a lot. So that's one thing we're really pressing right now. And also not leaving your cars open. It's another thing that stays consistent is people stealing things out of cars. That's a consistent problem throughout the year. So it's another thing that's preventable. If the car is locked, you're not leaving anything in it. We had somebody left their PlayStation in there. Somebody's going to see that and they're going to jump on. So, those are two things that people can do to help us. So, This year's statistics, we had 97 gun arrests and 114 guns recovered. So that's good news. And we're going to keep trying to get as many guns off the street as we can. It's a work in progress. I think we've closed 75% of our shooting cases last year, our detective office, which is, remarkable considering how far down they are numbers wise. But other than that, if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to take them.
I see Maura McNulty. Melrose, you have your hand up.
Hi, Dan. I'm note taking and I'm not very good at it. So I just want to make sure that I'm clear on this. You're talking about for 2021, there were 97 gun arrests and 114 guns recovered. I just want to make sure I'm getting it down accurately.
Yep, that's the stat that I have in front of me.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. All right. I just wasn't sure if it was that. Okay, great. Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Dan, you might also want to mention that if people leave their keys in their car and leave the car running and something happens with that car, their insurance does not cover that.
Well, not only that, Ray, you also get a ticket. So when you're getting a report done for somebody stealing your car, you're going to get a nice ticket on top of it, D&T charge. So, I mean, should be incentive enough right there.
Well, yeah, and you could end up with a lot bigger bill if they happen to hit somebody else,
Yeah, true.
Your
Very
car.
true. Yeah.
That expensive mistake.
Yep. No, that is a good point. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have questions? Ed Brennan, go ahead.
Yeah, as the looking forward to when the weather gets warmer and people get back out there on their dirt bikes and ATVs, do you have like a plan to for that situation that's been going on last couple of years? I know that there was a city council, they did pass some kind of a law for impounding the vehicles and with high fines. But of course, you have to catch whoever's doing it to impose that fine or impound the vehicles.
Right. So last year we had several details where we tried to do roadblocks and that kind of stuff, and we did grab a few. Believe it or not, we do grab a few from time to time. And enforcement is not the issue. Like if we grab them, we're going to throw every charge we can at them, and the fine to get their vehicle back is kind of rough. I don't know what we're going to have planned this year. Every year we've tried something a little bit different, and it's a tough one. It really is. So hopefully by spring we'll come up with another plan. I don't know of anything that we're going to do differently right now, but we tend to take things as they come. But that is a problem that doesn't seem to want to go away. Yeah. And I'm thinking, and maybe if the community can help us point out where these things are, if they're on the street, we can grab them. Unfortunately, private property, that's another obstacle we have to, if they're on private property, we can even see it and can't grab it without a warrant. So it is a tremendous obstacle, and I know everybody puts their head together to try to figure it out, but I wish I had a better answer than that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. Officer Sturriali, do you have anything tonight, sir?
No, Deanne touched on everything. Does anybody have any questions for me?
All right.
Okay.
I think we're good. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, the Albany Police Department, as always, for your update. Appreciate it. All right, so we have a couple of presenters this evening. A couple of folks from down at City Hall. We have Darius Shanfar, our City Treasurer, and Dr. Dorcia Pleers, our City Auditor here tonight. Darius, did you want to go ahead first with your presentation, sir? Why not, right? Oh, you gotta unmute yourself. Oops. There you go.
Let's
Thanks
say
for
ladies
coming.
first.
It's either whoever wants to go first.
I'll go first if you want me to. That's fine.
Okay.
All right. Well, as Zach said, I'm Darius Shawnfar. I'm the Albany City Treasurer. I provided a PowerPoint, my first PowerPoint ever, just so everyone knows. No pictures, so it's a little bit dry, but I'm just here to provide a bit of an overview of what my office does, what I do, and some of the things that are going on in the city. There we go. So the first slide is basically what my duties are. People often don't know what the city treasurer does, other than take your payments. But as a treasurer, I'm the chief financial officer of the city. So therefore, I'm responsible for accounts payable and accounts receivable. So that means I sign everybody's paycheck, who works for the city. My office writes out all the checks for payments that we have to make. They first go through Dorsey's office to the auditor's office, and they approve the payments and let me know that it's okay to pay them. So that's what we do on a day-to-day basis. We take in money. The two areas where we really take in money that makes me the most hated person in Albany, particularly around this time of year, is parking violations. So your parking tickets are payable to us. I handle the Parking Violations Bureau, where we adjudicate tickets. So the parking authority issues tickets on behalf of the police department for the city, and my office will adjudicate them and say, you can contest your ticket with us. We'll represent the city in court if people want to take it that far. We negotiate tickets down. People can come in and make their case. We're pretty good about it. Pretty acceptant of reasonable excuses. But I'm also the receiver of taxes. So that makes me the guy who just sent everyone out their tax bills this week. So this is probably not the best time for me to be appearing here in front of everybody. But at least on Zoom, no one can actually throw things at me. So that's a good thing. I'm also responsible for borrowing on behalf of the city. So when the city issues bonds or other financial instruments to borrow money on behalf of the city, I'm the one who handles that. And also, by virtue of my office, I'm involved in a lot of economic development for the city. So I sit on the business improvement districts. We have 3 of them in the city: downtown, Central Ave, and Lark Street bids. I'm also on the Industrial Development Agency and the Capital Resource Corporation, the IDA and the CRC. I'm on the boards for them, and those are appointments by the city council. There are 7 members of them on each board, and the board are they're the same board for both corporations. They have separate duties. The IDA is for private investment in the city. Capital Resource Corporation essentially deals with nonprofit activities in the city. And as I said before, the auditor's office is the one that's responsible for approving payments that are made by our office, and also audit city departments. But Dorsey will get into that, I think, momentarily. So the next slide kind of outline what's going on. Some of the accomplishments we've had in my office. I'm just starting my 3rd term right now. I was sworn in. Sorry. I was sworn in last week. I've been sworn at a lot this last week. Now the tax bills have come out. Some of the things we've done in our office is that we reduced borrowing costs for the taxpayers by about $1.25 million by refinancing our bond obligations. It's essentially a home mortgage refinancing that saved us money, and we're at the limit of doing that, so there aren't any more opportunities, unfortunately. But another thing we did, I found essentially a new revenue stream for the city of about $500,000 a year, not only for the city but for the library system. It's a bit of a story, but when the library and the school split in the early 2000s, nobody ever seemed to notice that we could be billing our pilots, which are what we charge some of the development projects that don't pay taxes per se. They pay a payment in lieu of tax. There was never a library portion for that. There was a school, there was a county, there was a city, but no library portion. And we realized that was in error about 3-4 years ago. And so we started to charge the developers for their portion, the library's portion of the pilot agreement. So that's brought a new revenue stream in. We've really seen a dramatic drop in tax delinquency over the past several years. We ended up having our best year this year, about a 30% drop in delinquent revenue. But more to the point, we've had about almost a 45% drop in the number of properties that are delinquent since I started 8 years ago. It's been a lot of work to get there, and a lot of detailed work in the city, but we've been able to do that and utilize new software to do that. Which brings me to the next point. We've implemented a number of new software programs in the city that have really enhanced operations. We have a new tax system. I mean, it's going on 7 years now, but a new tax system, a new accounting system, parking ticketing system. We've actually done 2 turnovers in that, which was fairly difficult, but it's been lucrative. We've also developed the online payment portal. It's not quite where we'd like it to be, but we're starting to see a real jump in usage of that by taxpayers, particularly for payment of property taxes. All of this together has made it a lot easier to communicate with our office, to administer our functions like the payments that I just mentioned. It's also reduced a lot of phone calls into the office, which is very good as well. Fundamentally, I think it's a lot easier for people to contact our office. We have an email out there, email address out there for people to contact us. You know, we answer our phones. You know, people report difficulties sometimes, particularly at the state, of having live people answer the phones. Well, we answer our phones, and it's made administrating our job, I think, a lot easier. We also began collections on delinquent parking tickets. That was never done. We've always had actually a very high collection rate in the city on our parking tickets, in part because we work with people who come in to argue their tickets. We reduce a fair amount of them for good cause. But in the end, we actually take in about 91% of tickets that are issued. They're not voided for some reason or paid, which is a very high rate in the parking ticket industry, which there is a parking ticket industry. But we initiated going out to collections, a collections agency, and that has really brought in over $1 million in revenue in the last 4 or 5 years. And overall, our parking ticket revenue has increased about 30% over the last 5 years, which is quite a substantial jump. The thing I was most proud about, I think, was implementing a food for fines program, although I haven't done it in a couple of years, where we asked people to, instead of people who had delinquent parking tickets, so they had a late fee on the parking ticket, we asked people to bring in food, roughly the cost of the value of their late fee, and we would waive the late fee and they could pay the underlying ticket and donate food for the regional food pantry. So we raised about $300,000 in revenue for the city and about 3,000 pounds of food that went to the regional food pantries. So I think that's the next slide. So one thing I want to talk about on the economic development side, because it's a little bit convoluted, I think, in people's understanding of it. We have an organization called Capitalize Albany that is responsible for, being the outreach coordinator and the quarterback, I think, of economic development in the city of Albany. Their staff at Capitalize Albany is also the staff of the IDA and the CRC. As I mentioned, I'm an IDA member, one of 7 on the board, as appointed by the council when I came into, actually before I came into office. Generally speaking, the treasurer is on the IDA because we are the ones who bill the pilots, the payment in lieu of tax agreements. But as the IDA member, what I do is I vote on the pilot agreements for development projects. Development projects come to us after they've passed everything in the city. They've passed zoning and planning and everything that needs to be done beforehand. Then the project will come to us, and we essentially vote on tax abatements and what is appropriate for individual projects. Currently, right now, most of those projects that are coming to us are market rate and affordable housing development projects. They're really tapping into a real latent market that had kind of been untapped until really starting about 7 or 8 years ago. Essentially the way the pilots work is that in lieu of taxes, the economic development projects will pay a sliding scale of increase in pilot payments over the course of development. And we do it this way because our tax structure as it is not very conducive for, and not very easy for new development to have in the city of Albany. We are about 40% higher, our property tax rate, than our sister communities around us, which is a huge disincentive for development in the city and a huge incentive to build outside the city, largely in green space. We've utilized the IDA for economic development projects from developers who come to us with their plans and ideas. It's really developed, not necessarily consciously, but it's really developed towards the residential apartments that I think we've seen all over the city that have come up. So it's an IDA project at the old Palladium. It's the IDA project around Park South and around Albany Med. The ones on South Allen Street, not too far from St. Peter's. The new buildings on Dana Ave. The IDA fostered the redevelopment of Livingston School into apartments. There's a new development up on Central Ave, Swinburne. So there's projects all over the city. One of the more recent ones was redeveloping about, I think we're up to about 85 buildings now on and around Clinton Ave into affordable housing. We took over, a company came in and took over for another company that had several apartments there, and then we refurbished all these historic buildings and made greater affordable housing in the city and on Clinton Ave, which was much needed. And I think we're starting to also see spin-off from that in increase in value in other properties in the area there. The CRC, as I mentioned, is a sister organization. It's for not-for-profit assistance. Most of that goes to conduit bond financing. So, for example, St. Rose wanted to refinance its bonds a little while ago. They came to us and we voted on that project, and the CRC gets a fee from doing that. The bids, for those of you who don't know, the business improvement districts provide ancillary services for, in specific districts. So Lark Street, downtown Central Ave. They do things like marketing, and Central Ave is the Steam Garden, which has been a really terrific project and really, enhanced. It's been an incubator for business and been doing extremely well. That's on Central Ave. Street beautification events like Perlapalooza, Champagne in the Park on Lark Street is another example, and assistance to the individual business owners and members dealing with government issues. That's something that frequently comes up, especially on Lark Street, because those are smaller businesses who really need a little bit of assistance, just kind of in understanding the dealing with the city in particular, going through permitting and all those things like that. And in my personal spare time, I've done a lot of research on single payer healthcare and how the effect that has on property taxes. For those of you who don't know, my research indicates that if we had single payer healthcare in the city, for the city of Albany, that would mean anywhere from a 30 to 40% reduction in our property taxes. So healthcare to me is a giant tax throughout our entire system. And that affects the cost of goods and services and companies who are paying way too much in insurance. And it's a huge chunk of what we pay in the city. It's about $8 million in the budget this year. It's about $20 million in the city. So that's a huge chunk of our city budget. I do the billing for the pilots. Yes, Louise. So that's one of the reasons why I'm on the IDA, because we do the billing for the pilots. Although really my staff does the billing most of it, but our office does. So on the next slide, I just wanted to go back to talking about some of the economic development issues we have. There's a lot of misconceptions out there, and I'd appreciate anybody's help in trying to allay those misperceptions. One is that the IDA does not give money to developers to build. There's not a single penny of city money or capitalized Albany money. Nothing. There's no money that goes to developers to build. What we do is provide abatements that gradually reduce over time. So every project, say the property, the Palladium is a good example. That property was worth about $1 million when it started. That's what the Palladium was worth, was valued at. It had closed. It was going to be devalued over the next few years, but Jankow bought the property, and since no one wanted to develop it into a bowling alley, or redevelop it into a bowling alley, built the apartments there. So the base level taxation through a pilot is $1 million, and then as the apartments now are worth $10 million, just pulling a number out. The taxes through the pilot will rise from that $1 million level up to that $10 million level over a course of years. And we have a very detailed matrix system, and we really go through the numbers with a fine-tooth comb to get to what is an appropriate pilot for particular properties. I think the other thing I wanted to mention was that that system of gradual increase in property taxes for new development, it's meant to incentivize new development, obviously, or redevelopment. It doesn't have to necessarily tear down, you can redevelop. I think we've seen a lot of really positive redevelopment in the city of Albany, particularly downtown. Jeff Buell in Redburn has done just really a remarkable job on the old Kenmore building. They're redoing Huck Finn's into apartments right now. There's several other older buildings, older structures downtown. I think it was the former Times Union building from decades ago. It was redone into apartments, and the Boozy Moo on the first floor, which is a alcoholic ice cream place, alcohol infused ice cream place, as well as an axe throwing bar, because what goes better with axe throwing than alcohol? Those incentives are also available to private homeowners as well. Now, through the IDA, you can't only do it through the IDA because it costs too much to apply to do it. But in our own city code, through the assessor's office, if you were to do improvements to your property that would increase the value of it, you can go to the assessor's office and lay out the plans and say, okay, over 12 years, or I think it's 8 years, my taxes will go up only 12.5% per year until 8 years from now, when the value of that the value of the improvements you've made to your property come to its full value. So it's something that's out there for everybody. One of the other things I just want to mention, the new apartments that have been made, one of the things I consistently hear is, who's going to rent them? No one's going to rent them. No one's going to live there. They are basically all fully rented all over the city. And it's really remarkable. Most have waiting lists. I was just in the Palladium, the new apartments over the Palladium a few weeks ago. They're really gorgeous. And they have a waiting list right there in the middle of Pine Hills. And all of this development has actually significantly increased our population. We almost got to 100,000 residents in the 2020 census. My guess is we're probably over it now, but it really needed to be over it then. But that's okay. We're on the right track with population, and it's really helped to increase tax revenue and property valuation. So that's really, I think, on the economic development side, that's all I wanted to really say. I did want to mention, as I am the tax collector for the city of Albany, I am, the receiver of taxes, which is what the title is called in our towns. Bills are out. They went out this week, due January 31st or February 7th for eligible seniors. So if you have an aged exemption on your property, you can pay your taxes a little bit, about a week later. Online, the easiest way to do it is to pay direct from your checking account. It's only 50 cents. It's the cost of a stamp. It's safe, it's easy, and you'll know within a day that everything has been taken care of, and your payment has been taken and made. Everyone in the city now can pay in installments. It used to be only the eligible seniors who could pay their property taxes a week late. Now everybody in the city can pay in installments, the first half being due January or February if you're an eligible senior, with the second half due at some point during the course of the year. We usually bill out the second installment payments in July, and the late fee on late taxes and installment payments is 4% in the month of February and 1% per month thereafter. For those of you who have a mortgage, if your if your taxes are escrowed, we don't send you a bill, and those come directly to us. And then, in case people didn't know, at the end of the year, we are not the ones who foreclose on delinquent properties and delinquent taxes in the city of Albany. We send those properties to the county, and the county works to collect on the delinquent taxes. Or if the payments are not made, 4 or 5 years down the road, the county will foreclose on the properties. They are now trying to get good properties into the land bank, to get to get land bank properties, homes, and also even the empty lots into the hands of responsible property owners, to increase taxes to the city and to really effectively reuse those properties. Finally, if you have any questions, you can there's some links for you, including our email address, taxbill@albanyny.gov. We've been getting a lot of use out of that these last few days with tax bills, so it's good to see that it's working. I provided a link here for Capitalize Albany. It's the development report, essentially, of what is going on in the city, and it gives a kind of an overview of what a lot of our projects that have been undertaken, and a lot of which have been IDA approved. And you can see kind of they're all over the city. Again, affordable housing, market rate housing, and some other, Honest Way Co-op route, I think, is just finishing off its IDA pilot. So we've even enabled that development. For more detailed information about the city of Albany, I put the operating statement. That's what we have to publish with our bonds when we go out to bond. It has a lot of information about the city. The first 20 pages or so, you can find out a lot of detailed information if people are really bored or that interested. Ed, hi Ed, nice to see you, by the way. We're still taking people in to pay by person, to pay in person at the city. Yes, it's easier to pay your taxes online. We'd rather have people mail it in or do it online, but we are still open to take payments for your taxes over the counter. We don't really have a big line. It's a big open space in our cashier's office. It's actually far bigger than we really need right now. So I feel pretty good about the safety aspect of it. And then I have the treasurer's office site there that has information on reports that we do. I report to the council every quarter on the financial condition of the city, parking ticket reports, where you can pay your bills, information on parking tickets, all that can be found there. And you can look up all your parking tickets online at that site too. So as long as you have your license plate number, then you can find out if you have any delinquent tickets. So if anybody else has any questions, let me know, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Darius, and I'll send out his PowerPoint to the CANA members after the meeting. Dan Van Riper from Lincoln Park, you have your hand up, sir.
Oh boy.
Don't worry, Darius. I was fascinated by your spare time research there on how single payer would bring down property taxes. I assume you're still working on this issue and still putting it together, but I'd be fascinated to see it laid out, simple terms, so that simple people like me could understand, but not in too much detail, but just basically how would that work? And I'd like to, I would definitely like to tell other people about that.
Yeah, I have some information that I can actually send out. We had I've done a couple of articles that were in the Times Union, and yeah, I have I did testimony a couple years in front of the state legislature. It's a little bit detailed, but the bottom line, yeah, and Megan just for the New York Health Campaign, they have a lot of information there. The bottom line is we're paying, in our city budget, the entire amount of taxes that we tax people for property is about $60 million. Of that, about 29 million goes to pay for healthcare. Okay, so if the cost of healthcare of that 29 million, if that shifts to the state or the federal government, okay, that's 30 million less in cost that we have at the city. Okay, now you have to add back in, the employer share it's paid for through essentially what we have already through your payroll tax, essentially. So the payroll tax would go up. So there'd be an increased cost to the city that way, but with an increased payroll tax. But when you put all the numbers together, we would save in the neighborhood of $18-20 million every year of cost of healthcare costs to the city, and that amount of money is available for tax reductions if that's what we wanted to do. Personally, the biggest problem we have in our city, in Albany, especially compared to other upstate cities and other municipalities in general, is that our tax levy is really high compared to what other municipalities impose on their cities. And the reason why is we have so much tax exempt property in the city. It's mostly from the state, but not exclusively from the state. And we also don't get the same amount of aid that other cities do compared to other municipalities, Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse in particular. So our tax rates are a lot higher. They get 2 to 6 times the state aid that we do in those cities, and so their taxes are actually comparatively low compared to Albany for sure. But the larger point is that taxes are the tax burden would be, I think, greatly relieved if we didn't have to spend so much of our money on healthcare.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else have questions? Maura McNulty, go ahead.
Just super quick, why do cities like Buffalo get so much more aid than we do?
It's legacy. As best as we can tell, it wasn't really a conscious policy decision. It was Albany didn't really need as much money as other cities did, as kind of the post-World War II decline in population and everything. In part because when the plaza was built, we lost 10,000 people and 300 businesses from the center of Albany. We didn't lose all those residents and even all those businesses. A lot of them moved into other parts of the city, particularly out on Eagle Point area there, as well as in Pine Hills and other places in the city. So we didn't suffer quite as badly in those days as the other upstate cities were, that were hemorrhaging people, hemorrhaging businesses, hemorrhaging their employment base. So they needed and got more aid at that point on an individual basis. And when Pataki, I think it was Pataki, kind of rolled over all these state aid programs into one program called AIM, those cities had a higher number for AIM than we did. And we're kind of catching up on AIM as the delayed effects of flight from the city, green flight, white flight, however you want to call it. Those effects were delayed for us. And so we've never really been able to catch up since then. And as well as the original pilot for the Empire State Plaza had also declined. It's been static for a while now, but that is actually a looming fiscal issue that is going to have to be dealt with, because the pilot on the Empire State Plaza, which is about $15 million a year, that ends in 2032. And so that's $15 million out of the city budget then. That's going to be a big issue. So thankfully we have a governor in office right now who I think is very attuned to the city's needs.
Thanks.
Sure.
Anybody else have any questions?
Have I bored everybody enough?
Great.
That was super informative. I feel like I really learned a lot.
Oh, good. It's usually not, tax bills and are not usually the most exciting topic.
No, thank you very much. Thank you, Darius, very much for your presentation. So now we're going to go down the hallway at City Hall to the auditor's office. And we have Dr. Dorcia Pleers, our city auditor, who just got re-sworn in as well for her new term. So thank you very much for coming to present to CANA, very, very much.
Thank you for having me, and good evening, everyone. Great presentation, Darius, for your first time with PowerPoint. I'm impressed. I just wanted to first start by saying, as I said when sworn in, I'm honored to continue serving the city of Albany in this capacity as Chief City Auditor. I also wanted to wish everyone a happy new year, and then lastly, just acknowledge that we are in some very difficult times dealing with COVID and all of the factors that come with COVID, whether that is juggling childcare, taking care of loved ones, school issues, people sick. So I just wanted to take a moment just to acknowledge how difficult and challenging these times are for everyone, including my household as well. And yet we're still here, we're still managing and doing our best. So just wanted to lift you all up in that regard. So I want to talk a little bit about the Office of Audit and Control, as Darius did, talk a little bit about my role as Chief City Auditor and really open it up for questions should you all have any. Most people don't even know what the Chief City Auditor does. They don't even know we have an office in City Hall. So one of my goals as Chief City Auditor has been to change that, to make this office more community-centric, forward-facing, so that people understand that this office really is about working for them. So with that, I'm going to talk high level about the function of the office per the city charter, and then I plan to just go to my office's webpage just to show you a few things on the webpage to familiarize you with some of the work that we've done. So the first thing I just want to highlight is that when you think about the Office of Audit and Control, and it is historically has been a very under-resourced office. It's a small office. Right now we have about 5.5 staff members, 5 full-time, including myself, and then we have a part-time administrative assistant in the office. Historically, there was a city comptroller. That position was phased out, and what was created was what you have now: a city treasurer, you have Darius, and then a chief city auditor. So there are 3 primary functions of the Office of Audit and Control. The first primary function is really to conduct performance audits. And some people think, oh, this auditor's office conducts the fiscal audits for the city, and that's not the case. In fact, the city hires a third-party firm who comes in and looks at the city's fiscal well-being and health and processes and provides recommendations per their audit. What we really focus on is performance audits. So looking at how best our departments are meeting the needs of our constituencies and how services and resources are being allocated. So that's the first leg of this 3-legged stool, is conducting those performance audits. And I'll highlight a few of those shortly. The second leg of that stool is we audit and sign off on all of the investments being made on behalf of the city. And Darius alluded to that. So for example, my office works closely with some of our colleagues in Treasury, and daily we get sometimes invoices, we call sometimes T-bills, but we'll get a document in which the representative from the treasurer's office will lay out how much money. So say, for example, $4 million the city is looking to invest from the general fund into a money market account. And so my office would then look at that, look at the institution, look at the amount, look at where those funds are coming from, make sure that we actually have the funds in our account to invest in the first place, sign off on that. And then once it's signed off on, the treasurer's office can then wire those funds to the banking institution. So that's an example of how we audit and sign off on investments made by the city. The third leg of that stool is really about certifying the validity of the accounts payable. And Darius talked a lot about that, but the nuts and bolts of that is really looking at every invoice that the city receives for services or goods, and our office reviews, audits, and signs off for payment. So whether that is an office looking or department looking to buy paper and pencils, or one of our departments looking to rent equipment to plow snow during the winter months, our office would sign off on every last invoice before it goes to the treasurer's office for payment. On average, we audit 20,000 invoices every year. So the team is busy constantly screening, auditing what we call voucher packets that include purchase orders and invoices with goods and services that are really related to quality of life issues or quality of life resources for residents in the city. So quickly, I'm going to go to my web page. I'm going to share my screen or attempt to do so. Are you all able to see the screen?
Yep, we're good.
Perfect. So if you ever would like to check out our webpage, this is it. If you go to the city's website, we have a page similar to the treasurer's office where you can go and just find out more about the work that we do in the office. So I quickly wanted to talk about, as I mentioned, audits. We conduct performance audits. So here, very user-friendly, anyone could check out the audits that we've conducted. Since I've been serving as Chief City Auditor, which is since January 1st, 2020, we've conducted 2 audits, one on the way. The first was a racial bias audit of the Albany Police Department. And the results of that audit are found here. They live on this webpage. So if you were to click here, you would get detailed information about the third-party firm that we brought in to conduct the audit. Very transparent here, a timeline that lays out the request for proposal, so the RFP, information about the process that we undertook to conduct that audit, the findings, the recommendations, all of that information is laid out here. We also recently concluded an audit of the city's utility, internet, and cell phone usage. That information is here for your review at a later time. So that, again, going back to the performance audits, those are examples of some of the audits that we've conducted. Right now, we're gearing up to conclude our 2022 audit plan, in which we would lay out roughly 3 audits that we plan to accomplish during the year. And one of those audits is an equity audit. How we get ideas for audits, either there is a request from a constituent who might say, you know what, this is an issue, I would like the Office of Audit and Control to look in this further. Or it may be something internally that my team and I put our heads together to say, what are some of the issues that we're seeing within city government that we think we need to shed light on and provide the administration with recommendations. Or it could be a recommendation coming from within City Hall. For example, the mayor's office, the mayor herself has reached out to me a few times to say, would you be willing to conduct an audit of X, Y, and Z? So those are how we get ideas about which audits to conduct. The other things that I would like to highlight, so that's about the audits. I mentioned earlier that my team and I have been really focused on trying to make sure that people know that there is an Office of Audit and Control. And so I've instituted the 30-minute download, which is a hopefully user-friendly platform for residents to learn more about issues that are impacting them. So these interviews that are conducted via the 30-minute download are conducted on social media. So you don't have to come down to City Hall for a meeting, which we, from my experience as a council member, understand that some people just don't have the time or don't have the interest to come to City Hall for a meeting. And so this was really about trying to bring information to the community. And these topics are born out of issues that may arise, and based on my ears to the ground, residents have questions or concerns. So for example, when I was initially sworn in, we were experiencing some issues with police brutality at a national level. And we had some incidents that happened here in Albany. And so my team and I facilitated a 30-minute download with, at the time, Commander Anthony Batuello, to talk about the Office of Professional Standards. And if a community member had a complaint about their interaction with a police officer, what would they do? Who should they contact? What form should they fill out? So that's an example of an issue that was raised by members of the community. We interviewed Commander Batuello to lay out plainly what is the responsibilities of the Office of Professional Standards and how are they accountable to Albany residents. There was a time during COVID in which the city had to cut back on face-to-face interactions with our youth via our Department of Recreation and Youth. And so residents were upset about that. Why are we cutting services? And so I sat down and interviewed Commissioner Jonathan Jones to talk more about the decision that was made, what went into making that decision, and how families could benefit from the resources that we had. And then lastly, there was an interview that I conducted with a council member from Philadelphia. This was around the time the city was grappling with the issue of whether or not to ban tear gas. And this was a very contentious issue for a lot of legislators, but also residents. And so Philadelphia's city council had some legislation that had passed, and I sat down and interviewed Helen Jim to talk more about that legislation and the process and rationale for that. Let's see. The other piece that I want to highlight is that as Chief City Auditor, one of the functions that I have is to officiate our Board of Estimate and Apportionment meetings. Those meetings happen twice a month. And for those of you not familiar with those meetings, and we refer to them as ENA meetings, the body that is assembled for those meetings include representatives from my office, so I officiate the meetings, but also if I'm unavailable, a member of my team, a representative from the Treasurer's Office, the Mayor's Office, our Budget Office, the Law Department, and the Common Council President. Per the charter, this group is convened and is responsible for approving all city real estate purchases, appropriations, and the annual operating budget. We also meet to approve budget transfer requests as departments are looking to shift and transfer money within their departments or sometimes out of their departments. And all of those meeting agendas are housed on my webpage. So if you ever wanted to get a better sense of some of those decisions being made, that information is also on the webpage. Here. Transitioning to talk a little bit about some of the initiatives that I've instituted since being Chief City Auditor. I mentioned the Community Audit Report. I also wanted to highlight a youth program that my team implemented recently. It was a very successful youth program called Ready, Set, Go. How this came about when, as a city, we were dealing with, I think as a nation, the effects of the murder of George Floyd. I took the time to talk to community residents about how can I use my platform to advance racial justice, but also we were dealing with, coupled with that, we were dealing with violence in our community. And I asked the question, how can I use my platform? And someone said, we need more resources and opportunities for our youth. And so this program was launched in 2021, and we had enough funding for 10 youth across the city. We made sure we had representation from each ward. There was an application process, and the youth were with me for 1 week, a very intense, action-packed week during this summer. And they learned so many things via workshops and field experiences, business etiquette. We had a lot of business leaders come in and talk to our youth about expectations in the workforce, what's required of them, what's expected of them, how to network, how to craft a resume. If you're out having dinner, a professional dinner, we went over dining etiquette, things that are not typically taught in the classroom. We also took them on field trips to speak with the executive directors for different organizations to learn how they develop those organizations. We also took them to Capitol Hills to learn how to play golf. Many of our youth did not even know we had a golf course in the city of Albany. They have never played golf there. Their parents have never played golf there. And the understanding that sometimes business is conducted on the golf course. And so we wanted to make sure youth understood that concept, but also how to play golf. And so they had a wonderful time with this program. And I just want to acknowledge the fact that the funding for this program was generously donated by business leaders in the city of Albany. We did not use taxpayers' dollars for this program. At the conclusion of this program, all of the youth received a free iPad to start the school year. And this is just, again, highlighting what was discussed: college preparation, professional etiquette, money management. Someone from Bank of America came in to talk about how to open up a savings account, how to manage their money, career readiness, and entrepreneurship. A phenomenal program. The other initiative that I just want to highlight, and I'll stop here to answer any questions, that I have been involved in as Chief City Auditor is providing COVID-19 resources to residents in the city. I was able to acquire a Harvard Fellow who worked with us virtually to assess some of the needs and concerns from residents across the city, in particular our residents of color, about their perceptions of how the city handled COVID-19 early on. That report is there for review. I was also able to initiate standing up a volunteer cohort. So as a city, when we were trying to get people tested, we didn't have the human resource capacity. And so there were community members who stepped up to volunteer, and we were able to create this volunteer program to make sure that we were making phone calls. We were in some of our communities that did not have access to testing, to eliminate that disparity in testing and as well as vaccines. And so this volunteer cohort stepped up. And I also helped to take the lead on a community stakeholder group that still meets today, meeting weekly to discuss some of the COVID-19 related needs of communities across the city, whether it is our Latino brothers and sisters, people who typically don't have access, again, to help reduce the disparities in COVID-19 testing and vaccination. And again, that group meets every week. So here are some resources produced by my office that are available to the public. So on that note, I will stop talking because I've talked a lot. And if I have a few moments after entertaining questions, I'll just highlight 2 additional accomplishments that I would like to hang my hat on as since I've been in this position. So with that, Zach, I will stop talking and entertain questions.
Great. Thank you very, very much. That's a lot of stuff going on. Anybody have any questions in the group? There was a question actually in the chat from Maura McNulty. Does Ready, Set, Goal need or accept volunteers?
Absolutely. Yes. And so I will drop my information in the chat if you are interested in volunteering. We hope to offer this program annually, and we definitely need volunteers.
Very good. Okay. Ed Brennan asked in the chat, what other performance audits are you looking to do in 2022?
So I mentioned that we're looking to undertake the equity audit. I don't know if I mentioned that, but if I did not, we plan to take a comprehensive approach at looking at equity issues across the city. There was a pay equity study done and by the administration, and we're waiting for the results of that. But we've heard concerns about hiring practices. Also, not just hiring practices, but how resources are distributed to residents or across the wards. So those types of things would be included in the equity audit. We would also be looking at, and I alluded to this, how resources are divvied up. So we would be auditing the implementation of the equity agenda legislation that was passed by the City Council. Another audit that we're looking at is succession planning. We have, as part of our workforce, we have employees who have been with the city for 40 years, who at some point will be transitioning. And we want to make sure in looking at just the landscape that we are able to provide some sound recommendations to the city as it relates to succession planning, given my understanding of our current workforce and just some of the gaps that I've seen even coming in as chief city auditor and having to figure things out versus there being protocols and practices and documents in place to help with the transition. So those are 2 audits that we're looking to conduct in 2022.
Okay, John O'Grady, you have your hand up and then you put a question in the chat. Is that the question you want to ask, John? Go ahead, mute yourself, John.
I have 2 questions, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, John. Yep. Go ahead, John.
I noticed the Trinity Alliance audit. You audit private agencies sometimes?
We do not. How that came about, the Trinity Alliance occupies one of our city-owned properties. And what that audit conducted by Sue Rizzo found, and it was discussed with the administration and recommendations were provided, was that, and it's no secret, the Trinity Alliance was not paying rent or utilities to occupy that space. And so this was not a deal that was made with the current administration at Trinity Alliance. This deal that was made happened before this administration. And so when my office conducted our utilities audit, if you are interested in a read, we highlighted in that audit that Trinity Alliance in 2021 worked out an agreement with the city to start paying a portion of their utility bill, which at one point they weren't paying anything. And so an agreement has now been, a formal agreement has now been made in Trinity Alliance. I believe they're paying 30% of that bill, but that was more so the nature of the audit conducted by Sue Rizzo, not to audit Trinity Alliance per se, but more so looking at their occupancy of one of our city-owned business property.
Thank you. The other question is, at the head of your website, there's a sentence, your office answers directly to the citizens. So you're not a sub-office of the treasurer's office. And what does that exactly mean, answer to the citizens?
So it means just that. So I am an elected official, as is Darius and the mayor. So there are 4 citywide elected officials, the mayor, Darius, myself, and the Common Council President, Corey Ellis. And so because I am hired by the residents of the city of Albany, that's who really put me in this position. I am accountable to residents in the city of Albany. So it's an independent office within City Hall, and it's an elected position. So hence the responsibility in terms of my office and the work that we do, we are really accountable to the residents in the city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, just want to read a question from Councilmember Keegan. Can we include Americans with Disabilities Act issues in full accessibility for the disability community as part of the equity review?
Yes.
You still.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Yep, anybody else have any questions? Okay, looks like we're good. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming to Cana.
Thank
Oh,
you.
wait. We have one more question before you go. I think it's Esther Thornton. Go ahead, Esther. Just gotta mute yourself.
I just wanted to ask, your Ready, Set, Goal program sounds fantastic. Is there any plan to try to expand it a little bit to bring to more weeks or more participants? Or it just sounds like it would be great if more of our young people could be included in a program like that.
I would love to do that. It's really a resource and capacity issue.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, we have a staff of 5.5.
Right.
And we wanted to use outside funds and not taxpayer dollars for the program. So it's really a resource, both human resource and financial resource capacity issue. But I would love to expand it as we acquire more of those resources. We have 40 applications and could only select 10 students, and that was very difficult for us to do. All of the students were phenomenal. So we would love to make this program available to as many students as we possibly could.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Dorsey, for coming tonight. Appreciate it. All right. Let's see. What do we have next on the agenda tonight? We have some committee reports. John O'Grady, do you have a codes committee report? Anything to report to us, sir?
My mouse ran away there. We have a meeting of that committee on February 11th with Rick LaJoy. And as usual, if your neighborhood association doesn't have a representative on that committee, feel free to send me an email or a text. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, John. All right. All right. Let's see. Do we have Councilmember Flynn for a common council update? Councilmember Flynn?
Yes, just to let you know, we all got sworn in the other day. This is probably the most diverse common council that we've had. Sorry, I got my mask on, but I'm at a nursing home with my mother. We had our first meeting on Monday. In that meeting, we discussed the leadership for the common council, where we elected Kelly Kimbrough as the president pro tem and Jenny Farrell as our majority leader. Last night, all the common council members got their assigned committee seats, which is like DGS, public safety, Council on Operations. If anybody wants to know what they are, you're more than welcome to, I can send them to you. But some of the stuff that the Common Council is going to focus on this year that we discussed the other day is police reform. So that's one of our major topics, and also changing some of the council rules when it comes to public meetings and other agendas. So that's all I have, but I think it'll be a great Common Council moving forward. And I'm glad to see we got Deb Zamer here, who just got elected to the 14th, Megan Keegan the 9th. So there are 5 new people, and it's a great council. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's see what's next. Let's see, CANA dues for neighborhood associations, $25 for neighborhood associations, community groups, $10 for individuals. Okay, so we're going to shift on to new business. Ed Brennan he's with the Normanville Neighborhood Association. He's also president of the Albany Bicycle Coalition. Asked for a few minutes tonight to present. So Ed, whenever you're ready, go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just going to, I don't have a PowerPoint. I'm just going to drop a couple of links there in the chat. Do that here. They sort of all kind of ran together, but the first 2 links there, one, we're the Albany Bicycle Coalition. We're a not-for-profit. We're all volunteers, and we promote bicycling and pedestrian safety in Albany and throughout the capital region. And that second link there is the capitalnybikemap.com. A couple of years back, we started with an Albany bike map, and we've extended it to link into Saratoga and Rensselaer County and Schenectady County. So it's a region-wide bike map where people can use it online to find safe bike routes from wherever to wherever throughout the capital region. But what I mostly wanted to talk to you about tonight is what's called the Crash Victims' Rights and Safety Act. And there's a link there to it, but it's a state bill, or it's actually a series of 7 state bills that are concerning pedestrian and cycling safety. These are bills that have kicked around year after year at the state legislature and seem to be going nowhere. Briefly, I'll talk about what the 7 bills are. The first one, the first one I'll skip because it relates to New York City. But the second one is an option for municipalities, cities, towns, villages, to be able to lower a municipal speed limit to 25 miles per hour. Currently, the state law says it's 30 miles per hour, except in like certain circumstances, like if you have a school zone or something like that, you can set a lower speed limit or a park. But it would enable, but otherwise, to be able to put a 25 mile per hour speed limit citywide, that would have to require legislation at the state level. There are 2 complete streets related bills. One would increase state funding for where you have a road project that will actually implement some complete street features. And when we're talking about complete streets, what is complete streets? Complete streets really looks at, when you have a road project, take into consideration that roads are not just used by motor vehicles, they're also used by pedestrians, they're used by people in wheelchairs, they're used by cyclists. And so that, there are accommodations for sidewalks, bike lanes, and just to make the roads safer for all the different users. So it would provide some state funding for projects where there are some features of complete streets that are actually implemented. And the other one is to include in, to require state, city, municipal, whoever is doing a road project, to include complete streets analysis if there's a large scale repaving project. Right now, repaving projects are sort of not considered. They don't really have to look at a complete streets analysis for those kinds of things. For example, in Albany, there was just a repaving project of Rapp Road. Rap Road, which might be, people don't even think that, is that really in the city? But yeah, it is in the city because it connects, out by the dump, but we don't call it a dump anymore, the landfill. But it also goes through where the, there's parklands out there. And so there's people hiking up and down along the side of the road and trucks and vehicles going by at a rapid pace. And there's no sidewalks and there's hardly any shoulder at all for people to walk on. But they just did a big repaving project, kind of snuck up on us, and yeah, it was an opportunity for maybe to look at something like that, but nothing really changed. The next bill would be a safe passage requirement. For example, in between 33 and 36 states require if somebody is driving past a bicycle, somebody riding on a bicycle, you have to give them 3 feet. There's a 3-foot rule. New York has never had a 3-foot rule. They have what's called a reasonable distance rule. So what is a reasonable distance? Nobody really can tell. We know a lot of people, including myself, have been hit by cars and there's never been any charge. So apparently hitting a bicyclist, you're within a reasonable distance. So, but many other states, most other states have a 3-foot rule. We like to see that implemented in New York as well. The next bill would be for Department of Motor Vehicles pre-licensing course, so that when people are going for their learner's permits, they would include in that instruction something about how drivers should deal with pedestrians and cyclists. That's not a requirement at present time. And the last one would be what they call a crash victims bill of rights. And it would allow people who get hit by a motor vehicle to be able to, demand or to get a police report, for example, which is not necessarily something that they have a right to do at present. It also would give them, if there is a to attend hearings, the right to attend hearings, submit impact statements, if there is like a hit and run or something like that. All right, but the importance of we've talked to the bill sponsors for these different bills, and why I'm talking to you about it, even though there are state level bills, is because nothing's been happening at the state level because they haven't heard anything from underneath. For example, New York City has been very strong about getting the speed limit lowered in New York City and getting all kinds of things done there. But they think municipalities in Albany, Rochester, et cetera, that it isn't important to us up in this area. So they need to hear it from the lower level. What I would like to see, if Mr. Flynn's still on, what we'd like to see is for people to reach out to their council people and say, yeah, this is important to us. And what we'd like to see is different municipalities to pass resolutions to say, yes, we need the state to take these actions. So that ultimately that's the big ask. That's what we're looking for. And we're also looking if anybody else is involved in any kind of groups that is concerned about safety on the streets to contact me. And we're also looking for other groups besides Albany Bicycle Coalition. And there's groups across the state that are involved in here, but we're looking for other groups that are also willing to join us. So thank you very much. If anybody has any questions, just let me know.
Let's see, there's something in the chat from Mike O'Brien regarding.
Hey guys, hold on. Okay.
Hold on one second. Regarding Rap Road, the 12th Ward submitted a request for walking paths a number of years ago. We also asked for that to be included in the city's walkability study.
Yeah, if I could just elaborate on that. Actually, Zach, you were part of that with us, and so was Hyde. And we, the planning department coordinated a walkability and bikeability study, and we submitted several of the roads out in the Pine Bush area, frontage street from the nursing home heading east. There's no walking paths, no street lights. Same thing with Rap Road. Same thing with Pine Lane.
Mm-hmm.
And we were bringing that to his attention for at least 5 or 6 years. And then when they did the study, we did get I would call it maybe an honorable mention in the work product that the planning department put out, but no, real level of priority. But it's pretty damn dangerous because they're both narrow streets, and as the bicycle coordinator said, they paved it. This, after years of us talking to them about the paving, but they did nothing about the walkability issues. And that's an unlit street. So if anybody's walking from Rapp Road over to Crossgates at night, God help them. And the nursing homes have, nurse aides and employees who walk from Massey, from Garner-Sarah, from Teresian House, down Frontage Road, across Washington Avenue to catch the bus at Walmart's. I don't know what to do to give it the attention I think that it deserves. But if you guys have any better voice than we did, by all means, the need is there.
Yeah.
The need
Yeah.
is
The thing that's frustrating about Rapp Road is that at least when it was in terrible condition, vehicles had to slow down because it was so bad that you couldn't do 40 miles an hour on Rapp Road. And now, it's, it's a beautiful road and people can drive a lot faster, but there's no accommodation for those people that are walking along it. And with the, the pine bush there, there's walking paths on both sides. So it ends in one point on one side and picks up down the road. So people are parked up and down that road, walking to the, to the trail, and then having to go to another section of the trail they're walking along. And there's like I said, there's no shoulder at all practically. So
yeah, and one thing which they did add for hikers in the Pine Bush, they did put a totally new traffic control device right where the Pine Bush Center goes into Coroner Road with a pedestrian walk lane. But they also need to do that at Coroner Road and Washington Avenue, because believe it or not, there's a bus stop right on the east side of that intersection. And there's no safe way for a pedestrian to cross from the condos that are out in Boynton Woods if they want to go over to that bus stop. So keep up your work.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, anybody else have any questions for Ed? All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ed. All right, we're going to move on to Hillary Papineau. She is here with the Helderberg Neighborhood Association to update us on the situation with the post office that was at the 563 New Scotland location and is temporarily at the Ontario Street location. Hillary, go ahead.
Thank you, Zach. Happy New Year.
Yeah.
All right, so just a quick background. I think a lot of you are familiar with this issue. The Academy Station Post Office was located at 563 New Scotland, which is now being redeveloped. So there was a large advocacy effort to retain Academy Station at 563 New Scotland permanently, with this new redevelopment project. However, new developments have taken place, and we just found out that the developer has, while the developer did build a location that did accommodate the post office, USPS had not made any decisions. And at this point in time, there are no more vacancies available at 563 New Scotland. The building is leased out for 10 years. So that option is now off the table. I think everyone also knows, if you don't, you should also know that there is now a temporary Academy Station post office operating out of 363 Ontario Street. And so what USPS is doing is they are considering a 10-year lease at that site at the 363 Ontario Street. So HNA has been partnering with other neighborhood associations, especially the Delaware Ave Neighborhood Association in Pine Hills. And we thank you all for your partnership, as well as CANA for your support. And so we have pivoted now, and we are supporting the 10-year lease at Ontario Street to ensure that that we don't lose this post office. We all know how important it is, and we know that other branches, the Delaware, the Allen Street, and others have closed in recent years. So At this point in time, USPS is pursuing, that's our understanding. We've been working with Congressman Tonko's office. So understanding is that they are working with the developer, the 363 Ontario site for a 10-year lease. USPS will be doing some kind of public comment, public engagement process. We don't know when, we don't know the details behind that. We're getting those details from Congressman Tonko's office. We do know that USPS confirmed that there are no other sites being considered. So really it comes down to 363 Ontario Street. So once we find out the details behind the public comment period, when it's going to be, we're likely going to be doing some kind of letter writing campaign to get letters written of letters of support to let USPS know how important it is that we have a post office, that we need a permanent location, we need a permanent post office, in that location, in this area, even if there's really no other viable site. I think theoretically the purpose of the public comment is to determine the ideal location. If they're telling us that's the only feasible one, they need to know that the community supports it in large numbers. So that is the gist. So we will be in touch once we have more information on the details of that public comment period, and we'll be partnering with our neighborhood associations and CANA on that.
Thank you. Thanks, Hillary. Ed Brennan asked a question in the chat. Can you clarify, did you say the developer made a space accommodation for the post office, but now that space is leased to someone else?
Because they couldn't wait. Yes, they did design the building to have a space that did meet the technical specifications of the post office. Yes, they did do that. But they started construction late summer, early fall, and they wanted, for financial reasons, to have leases for all of their units. And so they did book all of the sites, because by the time they started construction, financially they didn't want to wait, and USPS had not made a commitment. And USPS, if anybody wants more details, I can send this to you as well. But they directly told us that USPS has not indicated an interest to the developer to return to 563 New Scotland. So my interpretation is they didn't want to wait for financial reasons.
I have a question.
Okay, we got a question, hand up from Janet Nally over in Whitehall. Janet.
Hi, thanks, Zachary. Hi, I just have a really quick question. What other space? I understand it's a mixed use space for residential and commercial. What else in terms of space is dedicated at that particular location?
What other facilities or services?
Outside of residential, what other space is dedicated to that location?
I don't know. My understanding is it's mixed use, so I believe they do have space for commercial. I don't think there's any other commercial businesses currently operating at 363, but I don't know for sure. That's my understanding.
No, at New Scotland Avenue.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That's a mixed use site, so there will be residential. I don't know any of the businesses. I don't know that information.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thanks, Hillary, and please keep me updated as things progress. All right. You bet. We're actually joined tonight by Luke Ramsey. He's with University of Albany. I believe your title is Interim Director of Community Relations. Did I get it right, Luke?
You nailed it.
All right. Luke's going to give us a little University of Albany update. Thanks for joining us, Luke.
Thanks, Zach. And Michelle, I'm going to apologize in advance, as I know I just sent you these talking points ahead of time for your meeting coming up. And just very briefly from us, we're still in intercession right now. We are planning to resume classes in person on January 19th, so in a few weeks. Just so you're all aware, we have had to postpone a few of our men's and women's basketball games recently as a result of the COVID-19 outbreak. And we do hope to resume our men's game tomorrow. So at 7 o'clock, it's still on, and that is the game against Binghamton. But check our website if you're planning on coming to campus for updates as we've been trying to make sure that we are pushing that information at least 24 hours in advance if we do have to postpone. We have been doing some campus modifications in preparation for the bus rapid transit line. Some of you you may be familiar. It's a $60.9 million construction grant project that was funded through the U.S. Department of Transportation, awarded to the Capital District Transit Association. And it's about an 8.5 mile rapid bus transit line that's going to run from downtown Albany through the state campus onto our campus and then up to Fuller Road. And so we are starting to remove a few trees on Alumni Drive in preparation for that. We are planning on doubling up on the number of trees that we've removed and planting additional ones before the end of the year. And really what that's going to look like, if you're interested, on our website, we've got some renderings. It's going to create a really, really nice pedestrian bike lanes. We're going to have a really good green space with some external lighting, and it's going to provide an opportunity for some of our classrooms to move outside in better weather. And we're also hoping to engage the community, have some farmers markets on campus over the summer, and do some community events in that space on Alumni Drive. If you're familiar with the campus, it's right behind the campus center and behind the science library, that green area in front of the track. That's what we're talking about. Some COVID-19 updates. As I mentioned before, we are planning on resuming classes in person on the 19th. As we had done in the fall, we'll be doing again in the spring, requiring masking in all of our buildings. That's for all individuals, regardless of vaccination status. We are requiring all students to be vaccinated and boosted when they come back to campus. If they are not eligible for the booster, because it's not 6 months out from their previous vaccine dose, then they will have to be boosted as soon as they become boost eligible. We're also requiring surveillance testing for all non-boosted individuals. So these are individuals who are vaxxed but not eligible, as well as anybody who's received an exemption, either medical or religious, to participate in that surveillance testing throughout the course of the semester, and that's weekly testing. As general update, over 98% of our students are vaccinated in full at this point, so we're very happy with that, and that is the 2-dose vaccine. I'm not aware of the boost numbers as of yet. They were running that query and when I left this afternoon, and I hope to get those numbers in the morning. But as I had mentioned before, we are requiring that boost for our students, and that's been noticed out to them. And as Zach mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, the state is opening a test site on campus beginning this Friday. And that's going to be running from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. At the Colonial Quad Dining Hall, which is on the northwest side of our campus. So if you're coming off from Washington Ave by the I-90 East entrance, it's going to be right there. And there will be ample signage directing people on where to go to get those tests. And I think that's it for me, Zach. I don't know if there's any questions or concerns.
Did you say 8:30 to 4 or 4:30?
8:30 to 4 is the time frame that I have.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yep.
Luke, is the ETech building fully occupied now?
Yeah, so ETech's fully occupied. We're still waiting on some tech, which has been on back order for some time now. So, you know, there are some parts of the building that you can clearly see there should be monitors on the wall. Our sphere room isn't quite ready yet. But as far as classrooms go, yes, we have instructors in there. We have students that when they return in the spring on the 19th, they will be learning in those spaces. They will be collaborating in those spaces. So we're really excited about that.
Hey, Luke, it's Ray Moran here.
What's up?
Any progress on setting a date for that tour you're going to have of the ETech building?
So I was hoping to wait until we get our sphere room up and running because that's going to be kind of a highlight, at least for me, in that tour. But I'm hoping for sometime in February. So hopefully mid-February, late February. And I can certainly publicize that to Zach so that if people from this organization or this group would like to take part, we'd be happy to walk you through the building and talk to you about the National Weather Service and the different key components of ETech.
What was that room you mentioned of particular interest?
So the sphere room that's the room that I'm most interested in seeing, and that's going to be there's going to be a large globe which is going to be transparent, and you're going to be able to it's going to project the entire world. So all the different continents, you'll be able to see weather systems as they move across the different continents. You can blow it up. And again, based off from the atmospheric sciences team and how they've kind of pitched it to me, that's what I'm most looking forward to. So right now, the room in and of itself just has this big ring, which is where this massive globe is going to sit. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing that globe come in.
That sounds fascinating. I want to see it too. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Luke. Appreciate. Oh, and we got one more hand up from Ed Brennan. Go ahead, Ed.
Thanks. I think we've talked about it before. I was just wondering if there was any update on Washington Avenue. It's been a long time since the Washington Avenue road study. There's an awful lot of apartments and housing that's been done on the north side of Washington Avenue, people having to cross over to get over to the campus. And of course, it's a road. They've lowered the speed limit technically to like 30 miles an hour, but it's a road that's made for like 50 miles an hour, and not everybody does 30. So anything else could be plans for improving safety there for your students and staff that do that crossover?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate the question, and it's a good time for you to bring it up as well. I just got off a conversation with Bill Trudeau from Traffic Engineering, and this was a week or two ago, and that's in regards to the proposed development of the Crest Hill Suites. So they are planning a new private dorm in that location as well. And my understanding is that based off of the City of Albany Planning Board's recommendation, they are not going to move forward with that project until the developer comes to traffic engineering with a plan to mitigate pedestrian safety measures in that part of Washington Avenue. So that would be, we're talking a median, we're talking some level of a deterrent either on our side of the road or on the Dunkin' Donuts side of the road. In any event, we're very pleased to hear that the City of Albany is doing something to mitigate those concerns. I will say that we've done some programming at Block 75 as well as Audit. I've been over there personally over the years, and we've been trying to talk to the individuals that live at those two complexes to let them know that it's really it's a life or death situation when they cross that street and they're not inside that crosswalk. To the extent where we actually handed out gift cards for individuals that were going through the crosswalk when we spotted them, as well as reflectors that they could, put on their backpacks and things of that nature. So we're with you on that one. We're encouraging traffic engineering to make sure that there is as much of a deterrent as they can possibly put into that package with this new proposed development. And we'll have to see what happens.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Luke. Thank you. Appreciate it. Does anybody have anything else to bring up during new business? All right. All right. Let's see. Upcoming meetings. February the 2nd, we have Mayor Kathy Sheehan. She's going to give her State of the City. May 2nd, Assembly members Pat Fahey and John McDonald. April 6th, we're going to do a conversation with new common council members, two of them which have joined us tonight. Gabriela Romero, Sergio Adams, Megan Keegan, Ehide Clark, and Deb Zamer. May 4th, we have Albany City School District and the Albany Public Library. And then June 1st, we're going to have the Albany County Executive Dan McCoy join us. Have anything else tonight? If not, I think we're all set. Thanks everybody for joining us, and have a good night. We'll see you in February. Okay, stay safe.
Zach, thanks for everything. This was an amazing meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. This was great. Very informative.
Thank you, Zach.
Everybody.
This was a good one.
Thanks for having us.
Good night, Zach.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you.